Good evening, everybody. I'm Stefan Yost. I'm the Michael and Sonia Kerner Director and CEO of the Art Gallery of Ontario. Tonight, we'd like to start by acknowledging that we're on the traditional territory of the Mississauga of the Credit, and we've also been home to the Huron, the Haudenosaunee, Wendat, Seneca, and Neutral nations over time. So tonight, we want to particularly give a warm welcome to dancer and choreographer Bill T. Jones and his husband and designer Bjorn Alleman, who've joined us here tonight from New York. Tonight has been supported by the Bill Solly Family Foundation. Thank you, Jim and Neve. It really allows us to do things like this, so thank you very, very much. Bill T. Jones is the co-founder of the Bill T. Jones and Arnie Zane Dance Company. He's also artistic director of New York Live Arts on 19th Street. This is my shameless plug. When you go to New York next, look up the website, New York Live Arts, and see if there's something to see, because, art continues, right? So always stick yourself in a place where you're seeing something a little bit new. Personally, I've long admired his dance. In the mid-90s, when I was in my 20s, I had the good opportunity of seeing, I lived in Brooklyn, and I went to the Brooklyn Academy of Music and saw Still Here. I had no idea what I was seeing. I just know that it was foundationally human, and it was very powerful and empowering simultaneously. So for a 20-year-old, thank you. Tonight, we have Bill T. Jones in conversation with the Frederick S. Eaton curator here of Canadian art, Georgiana Uhlyarik, who's been an incredible curator in-house for the amazing Keith Haring exhibition, Art is for Everybody. Just a little note that your ticket tonight gets you into the show upstairs, so my hope is that when you're done here, if you haven't seen it, go upstairs, and as you know, it's a massive exhibition, so go back up and see it again. So just thank you very much, Georgiana and Bill T. Jones.
Welcome to Toronto, clearly.
Really? Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you.
We're going to get to body painting. We're going to get to lots of things. But tell me, when was the last time you were here?
The last time I was here, I was probably working on a musical called Paradise Square. And it was under the producer was Garth Brinsky. And that was before, I believe it was before COVID. Is that right, Bjorn? Yes. Yes, that was probably the last time.
Okay.
And the first time I think that we were here was probably when we used to come regularly to the Harborfront Performance Art Series. And I'm not quite sure. I think Arnie was still alive. I'm not sure. It all gets very fuzzy.
Okay. So Keith Haring was here in 1997, the exhibition, soon after he died. That's when I was an intern here. I was 25, and I realized that I was walking through this exhibition looking pretty much at a 25-year-old making this work. It was incredible, liberating, all of the radiance that comes out of him. Kind of like my gateway artist to what art can be. But let's start at the beginning. How did you meet? And what was going on in your life when you met him?
Yeah, it's one of those art historical questions, right? That become more and more of a challenge every year as one gets older. And so I have my senior moments, and hopefully you won't notice them tonight. How did it work? We were, there was a new program at City Center in which they were trying to utilize a downstairs theater space. And we were invited to do a piece, and the piece was called Social Intercourse. My friend, mentor, big brother, Bill Katz, he came to a rehearsal, I think this is correct, and he saw the work and he said, there's this young guy, because we were doing these kind of flattened hierarchical shapes and all. He said that I don't know if he used the term cookie cutter shapes, but he said, you should probably meet him. And so somehow, was it through Bill? I don't know. Maybe just picked up the phone. Is that right? Now I'm getting confused. I went down, I met Keith, told him about the work. I don't think he ever even came to a rehearsal yet. And he asked me when I would need it. And that was the way he was. And okay, well, in about a week and a half, come back, and he had 3 beautiful drawings. Now, that's one version of the story. The other version is that there was a wonderful teacher at Kutztown, which is Keith Haring's hometown, and he was never a student there, incidentally. For those of you who are interested, please go see the show, but also pick up the brand new book called Radiant by Brad Gooch. It has a lot of, I'm learning, every time I read it, I'm embarrassed at what I didn't know about Keith. But anyways, this story has this man who was an artist himself, was very interested in getting artists out of Manhattan to come out to Kutztown. I don't know if any of you know it, but it's in, I think it's Amish country. You could still see the carriages and so on. And we would be asked to come out and maybe do a performance, but things like I was required to make a print. You know, we all had to do multidisciplinary things. I know Trisha Brown had been there, Meredith Monk had been there, all the people like that. And while there, I was introduced to Keith's childhood friend, Kermit Oswald. And he was wonderful. And he showed me some of these outrageous drawings of Keith's. And was it Kermit who was the one that had me go to Keith's studio? So there you have it. You historians in the room, Brad probably has it in the book, so I'm not quite sure how it worked. But
He arrives in New York in 78, and I think you and Arnie arrive in 79, something like that. So it must have been soon after.
September of 1978.
Yeah.
Keith had already been in the Lower East Side, living, I think, in the same building with the celebrated choreographer Melissa Finley. Okay. And I think that he had already done works with Melissa at that time.
Okay. And the video of the two of them is upstairs.
Yes, yes.
For those who want to see it. So then let's go back to body painting, and it's going to be sort of a 2-part question. One, it's incredible obviously to watch it, and it's a very rare occasion. This is not a publicly available video, so it's extra super special. To see the relation, I mean, I heard it took 4.5 hours.
Yes, it did.
Which is incredible. So when you watch it, do you remember that sensation of the brush on what were you talking about? And then in the middle of it, apparently he lets you know, because this is in London in 1983 at the very notorious Robert Fraser Gallery.
Yes.
And he tells you in the middle of it, at least you write in the catalog, oh, by the way, the press is coming.
Yes, that was quite a moment. Well, there's a lot in that. I'm not a blushing innocent or anything like that, but I was innocent. And it was all like razzle-dazzle. Art world takes it, Keith was like a jet plane taking off. He was on the cover of 5 different art magazines at that time. He was in the street, he was everywhere. And when we got there to England, he was already doing, was it before the body paint or afterwards? I think he had 2 other galleries that he was doing the whole of the room at the same time. So that was kind of exciting to be in his space. And how do I say this without sounding callow, but we were dazzled by, because the world of contemporary dance certainly didn't have Warhol and Madonna and those people hanging around there. So we were interested in that, and we were very, very interested in something, it's probably old hat now, high and low art. Does anybody even use that term anymore? You'd probably be accused of being elitist, and you would be bad, and you might get canceled if you do it. But there was a time, and that attitude will come back a lot tonight. I'm still making my peace with how the world has moved on. But anyways, he was offering me this opportunity to grow closer. Now, in that article, and the person that interviewed me did a wonderful job, but he talked about some weeks earlier walking into Keith's studio, which was a whole scene. It was when Keith was always working. A lot of the works I see upstairs, I was there when they had just been finished or around that time, and some things I'm thinking, damn, Keith, you're really going to do that? You're going to paint a lawn ornament of the Venus de Milo sort of thing? Yes, he was. But I walked in, and there was a glossy magazine. And this is another thing. He had magazines, Sao Paulo Biennale, he in Milan, and so on and so forth. And this magazine, I believe, was South America, and he had a picture of, when you go upstairs and you see the show, there's these giant urns, and there was a young, buff soccer player in one of them, painted from here up. And and Keith said, "Yeah, I just did this. This guy, he's great, but I'm going to do you. I want to do the whole of you." Now, okay, so I guess we were looking for an opportunity. And was it that we were also already, we were performing a lot at Dance Umbrella at that time. And those of you who are dancers in the audience know of it. And were we there on our own, or did Keith invite us to come? I think we must have been there because of the wonderful Val Bourne and Dance Umbrella. And it was I remember there was garage doors in this particular studio. And we were there for hours, and Arnie, you probably didn't know, but there was a man with his back to you at one point with a Bronica camera. That was my companion, Arnie Zane, who died in 1988. There was Kwang Chi, who I knew. Kwang Chi was always right there next to Keith. They'd already done the now famous subway drawings and so on. And it was Kwang Chi, as a matter of fact, who, as I was watching it now, I wondered I was so aware, even when I was being painted, that I was trying to show the drawings. And Kwang Chi, had said, make sure that you flatten everything out so we can see it, flatten everything out. Now, if any of you who know anything about contemporary dance know that there was a movement already afoot to do organic movements. It should flow. There should be no hard angles. But here Keith was asking me to be painted, and I was drawing on what I knew about statuary. And that is, I think, the collaboration with Kwang Chi, Keith, myself, and Arnie Zhang was doing his own work, which he always did. I think he had received a grant, maybe do you remember what the CAPS grant was? Creative Artist Public Service Grant. It was a very desired grant at that point, and he'd been able to buy a brand new camera. We'd been using cameras for a while, but they were always substandard, they were clunky, they broke down, and now there was a whole new generation of them that were small, and Arnie was right on it, photographing it. The footage was then later brought to New York, and the dance curator was Tom Bowes, B-O-W-E-S. Arnie gave him this footage, and Tom cut it together. But Tom did not, and he loved the music. Keith loved the Talking Heads were all the rage at that time. They were out in Queens or someplace, but he didn't get permission to use the music. That's just the way we rolled, right? It was a very bad habit to break. Because, modern dancers were horrible like that. You hear something, you just put it into your concert and, got caught once. We were making this was somewhat later, suite of dances to Kurt Weill and La Dolena. Beautiful. I don't know if you know the September song and all. And out in Brooklyn doing it, just so happens representatives from the estate happened to be walking through the park. And sure enough, cease and desist came down, and we got a lesson, And if you don't, they didn't have any money. What are they going to do to you? We know now they can mess with you. So, anyways, it was a roundabout way. That's how it happened.
You know what struck me the first time I saw it, and the second time, there's this beautiful moment where he looks up at you, and I think the exchange is, "I'm gonna paint some lines on your penis."
You know the story. I thought for some reason that really did happen, but Tom didn't show that when Keith. There is my. Now, what is the polite word now, right? I mean, we don't have to be polite,
Your
right?
situation.
It's a very groovy, hip crowd. My dick, my penis, my whatever. Well, let's just say my penis, right? And there it is, and he's right in front of it, and so on. And he looked up. He said, "Shall I?" And I said, "Go for it." And and boop, boop, boop. Were there 3 or were there 4? This is leading into the question of. This is leading to the question of masculinity. Oh, I hope it was 4. I hope it was 4. You know.
It is true, and I think it is important we talk about that. Although you don't, like, when you walk through the Haring show, you don't feel overwhelmed. At least I don't. As like, here it is, this oozing masculinity, but
Well, certainly not.
No, this innocence, and you talk about him being quite disarming.
Yes, he
very
was.
often, and I think about in this clip, and that's all we get. I have the sense that there was such a relationship already,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
and that in that there is developed trust and respect. Otherwise, you would not be, as you said in the interview, the only black man in the room naked, with painted by a white man, with all these white men.
You're going to take us right to the political, right? Now we're supposed to like ease ourselves back in the time when there was less interest in appropriation, and there was the hearts of black folks like myself were still feeling like, we're just people, we're just cool artists. Black and white doesn't count. That only squares, or whatever we called them, straight people at that time, didn't mean heterosexual, but straight people cared about what color you were. We were F-R-E-E, F-R-E-E, F-R-E-E. We were free. Oh, listen to that. Yeah. We got a free one in the house here. Well, and that was, I was thinking about that sitting back here and brooding. What was going on there? Now, this was not when was it?
This is 1983.
1983, going back to 1969 at Woodstock. Mm-hmm. And my friend Holly Smalls is here tonight, and I don't know if John is here, but we talked a lot over dinner last night about what it means to, how things have changed. Arnie Zane, I met in 1971 at the pub at State University of New York at Binghamton. He was, it was a time when, casually, we met each other one night at the pub with my sister-in-law, an Irish Catholic woman. Her name is Mary Ellen Hearn, sitting in the pub. I made my first attempt at cruising somebody across the... Anybody here do any cruising ever? You're all supposed to know the vocabularies now. You all know, black vocabulary now, gay vocabulary, yeah, is that true? Yeah, so cruising, you know what I'm talking about, right? And we immediately were intimate that night. But what did we do? We came back to my room and we put on, what was I listening to at that time? Bessie Smith. Captain, tell your men to get on board. This is lovemaking, right? This is right. And Barbra Streisand. Arnie was a big fan of Barbra Streisand. And that was that man, Arnie Zane, this 5'4" Jewish Italian man, who knew much more about the world than I did, but everything about it was allowed to be really human. I don't know, like Toni Morrison once said to me, talking about Brazil, And she said, you know, they have profound sexuality, not this silly acting out that we do. Now, what does she mean? You know, I was about to learn a lot of things. So Robert Mapplethorpe, who was a friend, but I would never say he was a buddy. He was a friend, and he looked down his nose at Keith and that whole group. And Robert was a professional artist, serious artist. No, I never knew Patty. I wish I had met Patty back in the day. I know her now. We're friendly, but there was something about, what was that shot? I thought it was so funny, though. The gay people in the house, we definitely must have picked up on that. When my back, I'm between you and the camera, and we see him kneeling in front. You know? Now, just taken out of context, what the hell is going on here, right? But no, it was art being made. And you know, there's a culture that wherein the parts of people, women, you know very well what I'm talking about, and men, and particularly the dick on a black man. And the white man is down on his knees servicing him. But he wasn't servicing him. He was actually, what do you call it? He was enshrining something, right? It was a very complicated moment. But now you compare that to Robert Mapplethorpe's, what is it, Man in the Polyester Suit? You know, the notorious Man in the Polyester Suit, where all you see is this from here down and this jagunda. Now here we need to call it a dick, right? The jagunda dick falling out of a pair of polyester pants, right? And the book is called The Black Book. People of a certain generation, this is a heterosexual term, the Black Book was you had a woman in every port. You go into a town, let's go through my black book and see who I can call up and get laid tonight, right? Now he calls his whole book full of black men. He calls it The Black Book. Now but everything was so naughty. Everything was so like, you know, fuck them if they can't take a joke kind of thing, you know? But just comparing what was going on with Keith and Bill at that moment and what was being implied with the man in the polyester suit. As a matter of fact, you know, if Robert's people are here, Robert, thank you for all the kindness, but he was a tough dude. As he said to Arnie on a car ride back into, I think it's worthwhile sitting here, and let's talk about the part.
Because we have some, I think, downstairs in the collection.
Yeah, she keeps tabs, right? He said to Arnie, we were all coming back from Washington, and Arnie, who was always wheeling and dealing, he wanted me to be photographed by Mapplethorpe, right? And he said that Mapplethorpe said to him something to the effect that, well, you know, I've not been lucky, but you got yourself a good one. What? What's he talking about? My sister over here, she knows what I'm talking about. You got yourself a good one. So I guess I should be flattered, right? Now, what makes me a good one? Robert, when he had his shows, now this is, I'm not sure if I'm not confusing this with Francis Bacon and his beloved in but he would not bring him to the openings, right? Francis Bacon kept him in the hotel because he was, I don't know, was he not fit for the high art crowd? But Mapplethorpe said this, he said, you know, I had this guy, took him to some show, and, you know, all he wanted to do was stay in the hotel room and watch TV. So, okay, I'm sure the wheels are turning. Well, what do you want from a partner? What does a partner have to be at your intellectual level? We just want somebody that is there that you can cozy with and have them. Can they throw down and do the wild thing, right? But what else do you want them for? You know, because that's not your world. Your world are the Leo Costellis and the Mary Boones and so on of the world. These guys from the lower classes, what were they there for? But Arnie had a good one, which meant, I suppose, that I read books, that I could talk about things that were relevant to him. Now, Keith also, you know, had this and here I have to protect my friend, I don't think he really understood what it meant to be in relationships where the power dynamic was so broad. Now, we all know that now, don't we? We all know that interracial relationship is not free, do we? Right? I'm looking at you. Yeah, I know. Yeah. I'm doing racial looking right now. You know, I'm seeing who the couples are, you know. But that time, what did Mapplethorpe mean? He had a good one, right? So that is what I think about that moment in the body painting the dick, you know.
And it comes across very tender.
It was tender.
Yeah.
Yes, it was. You know, Keith was not, and
No.
as far as I know, I don't think Keith flirted with S&M. I don't think he did.
He liked
I mean,
baths. It was the thing to do, right?
Say that again?
Go to baths.
You know, and I went to the baths. I don't think everybody else in the dance world, and they were all there. But I don't know, did I ever see Keith at the baths? He always looked like the poster boy for Nerd America. And he even says, you read in Brad's book, he refers to it, he says, well, guess I was already a bit of a nerd at that time, you know?
You've said, I heard a quote, you said that he was so nerdy, especially in that tuxedo that he wore that one time.
Yes.
He said he was so eclectically nerdy, he was almost cool.
Oh, yeah. But you know what, and I thought at that time, you know, Keith would be hanging out with these, like, first of all, they're Adonises, they're Puerto Rican. He had two Juans, Juan 1 and Juan 2, we used to call him, right? Yeah. I didn't mean for that to be a laugh line, but it's true. And he would he liked to go to clubs and so on, but surrounded by people of color. But he was a white boy from Kutztown.
So you said something about context, right? And I think that's, it's this image, this is an image that's an invitation. And so what happens when this image enters the world, right? And it circulates outside of the context in which it was made, outside of the context of the relationship, the trust, the respect, all of that. It is a question of how it becomes received, and what is your responsibility as you think back to that moment and how this image can say something maybe completely different to someone who's encountering for the first time.
Well, I'm just going to, you're asking a difficult question. What is my responsibility to the social, sexual, psychological, racial discourse? And I want to say this country, excuse me, I know I'm not in the United States, but you know, I've inherited the chauvinism. What does it really mean to be all those things in the United States? And I thought, did I dare say we thought, that that's what freedom was, that you don't have any responsibility.
There are many times you say that the artist should be the freest person.
Yes.
And then you follow it with, depends how much you want to pay for that.
Right. Okay. Well, you put together two of my oldest, tiredest lines, but they're good lines. People would ask me back in the day, of course, Mr. Jones, you're seen as an artiste engagé. The French love that, right? So I was an artiste engagé. And what should an artist do? And I would say an artist does not have to do a goddamn thing. An artist should be the freest of any society, sometimes running literally naked through the streets, thumbing their nose at all received wisdom. But an artist is a woman, a man, a trans person with a social location. What does that person that the artist is need to do? Now and then it becomes somehow or other, is it political when you've got to, as let's say a woman artist, you've got to talk about what it means to have the world so invested in your uterus? You know, is it that you're just trying to hit me over the head, or something you have to say? That's how I think I understood what artistic freedom was. And I have said this over the years, and I think I still believe it. I can forgive people an awful lot if I know what they love. How do you think about that? I can forgive. I'm just sitting back here reading, because my reading group, Hannah Arendt reading group, I'm reading Eichmann in Jerusalem. And that's what I'm doing to calm myself down before coming out here, right? I think it was a good choice. But I can forgive people a lot if I understand what they really love. And that is maybe why I could be in the situations that I was in, because I thought, yeah, on one level, and I was called, black people would call me, like, why are you hanging out with all these white people all the time? You know? Well, these are my friends, and what's more, they're part of a group that I'm a part of. We're artists, and artists are full of passion, and they're deep and they're important. Like Keith said, artists for everybody. Now, yeah, I can forgive you if I understand what you really love. And going back to the second part of what you said, this man or this woman, what do they need to do? And then I say to my young performers, and those of you who've lived long enough to have started out as a rebel, and then next thing you know, everybody around you is saying, yes, Swamiji, to you. And well, what about freedom? How much freedom can you have? You can have as much freedom as you're willing to pay for. And then depending on the occasion, you can have as much freedom as you're willing to die for. Dramatic, right? But I think we're all getting a sense of what that means. And I think we're going to know it even more over the next 5, 10 years. How much freedom can you have? How much freedom are you willing to pay for, or are you willing to die for? I'm a survivor. Have I not paid the bill? That's your question.
We're just going to go back.
Thank you.
I want to talk a little bit about long distance because he invites you into his world after you invite him into yours, right? This is 1982 at the Kitchen. 4 nights of performances, 4 duets. The first one is long distance, and you invite him into this world. He makes a different drawing behind you as you're dancing, and
do you know if there's anyone who knows whose idea was? Keith, I want to collaborate with you. Oh, I'm going to bring big, huge pieces of butcher paper in, and I'm going to paint, and you're going to dance. I mean, I don't remember, and that's whose idea it was.
This is my question about what kind of conversations you have, because earlier you said, when do you need it, I'll be there, because he's making stuff all the time. There's a speed and like he is filled with it, and it must all come out. But do you remember, what that kind of collaboration is like? Like, do you say, I'm gonna stop dancing when you stop drawing. You're gonna stop drawing when I stop dancing. Like, you don't know what's happening behind you. You've given yourself a limitation in this performance, right? You're going to move forward and backwards in this line, and you draw that line on your face. It's not him.
Well, you're full of these great questions, aren't you? Do I bring in my other father, the Irish one, whose name is John Cage? As much as I fight with him, he was on to something, indeterminacy. Now, if I was an artist like a systems maker like Trisha Brown, something like that, it's going to be about, I don't know if Trisha would do this, but it's going to be the breathing. We're going to all find some synchronicity, But we had some very basic rules, and we were going to see what happened, Now, I don't know.
That's freedom.
Pardon?
That's freedom.
That's freedom. Is it the best art? I don't know. This is a 72-year-old looking at their younger self and saying, did you consider everything enough? Did you consider time? I've imitated, if you will, or been inspired by John Cage's Indeterminacy, where he read, was it 90 stories in 90 minutes, no transitions, right? It was all on a stopwatch. Took out all the romance of it, all of those things. But this was full of feeling and showmanship, and I don't know what Keith's engine was. What was his prompt? Except I know that friends like Robert Longo, I don't know if Cindy was there that night, but they said, because they were not friends, all those people. Don't matter what they tell you, they were not. But they came to see, Bill T is dancing with this guy, And he said, it was kind of cool, but the only sound you heard was him, the brush going in the can. And John Cage would have understood that. But I don't think we thought about that.
It sounds from the outside, from the street. He loved music so much. Dance is so connected to music. And so here's this, it's not a silent piece, it's a piece without music. It's just the music of the brush, the sounds that come through. And what I just want to tell everybody that we have an extraordinary opportunity at the AGO. This was not in LA. It's not going to the Walker. It's not part of the show. This is today called Red, and we brought it in early. And it's true, this is what we do with art. Sometimes we put it on the floor. Because we wanted our conservators to have a look at it. And here's this inscription that Keith Haring leaves for us, October 1st, 1982. So this is the second performance. The first one is September 30th with Bill T. Jones. And then, this is the very peculiar thing. We don't know where the other three are, and he is not an artist who goes back to his work, right? And yet, 2 years later, it's telling you, it's red. I made the red part on April 4th, 1984. So this comes out of him as you're dancing, and then
the black lines.
The black lines,
right.
And then 2 years later he returns and adds all of this red patterning, and then the drawing resurfaces some time ago, and now we're able to share it with everybody so that you actually have a sense of the scale, because on the monitor you're dancing, you get a sense of that scale.
Yeah, no, that's probably the height of me, right? the
Yeah.
height of it. Now, looking at this work, it is, I'm glad to see it. I'm so glad for many things from my friend. But I am made now more aware than ever of what it meant to be doing an art form that is so ephemeral. He and I, these are both made at the same time. Mine is a bit of a video, and he had 4 of these. And I never asked Keith, could I see them? I don't know. I heard that they were in a basement somewhere. I know that toward the end, when things were getting really grim, and Bobby Breslow was in the hospital, and everybody was getting sick, and everybody had a lump underneath their arm or here, what have you, and Keith was getting sick. And we were trying to think about, without too much pain, that he had offered to give my company a painting every year, as Robert Rauschenberg had to Tricia. That was how it was supposed to work. Artists make a lot more money than the people who are the dancers. And it didn't happen. I didn't know. You say that there were 4 of them, and this is the only one we really know about?
Yeah.
I remember trying to go around while he's not feeling well, and it was, it seemed like very bad form, and just to get him to sign the drops for Secret Pastures, because we were desperate,
Because Arnie was dying.
Arnie was sick as well. Yeah, he was sick as well, and we knew that there was going to come a time that there was money here, because that's what the art world was. I do remember, who was it? Who said? Was it Tony himself? Tony, if you can hear this, said, Bill, why are you whoring Keith's work around? Whoring it around. You see how all that gentleness, what had happened, it's getting real. The lights are coming down. Who has the money? How do you turn that into money? And we want, and it doesn't matter if he doesn't sign it. He's got to sign it. And did I know that these were signed? Why did he sign them? Why did he sign? And why did he return to it? You know, there are conversations, these talks where I'm invited to come and talk about my collaboration with him. We were close, but we were kind of, I think, opaque to each other. Yeah, so I'm really glad that it's here, but it saddens me how that's an object. I don't make objects. Objects have value in the marketplace.
Mm. There was a generosity about him, though.
That's true.
Because he donated works of art for ACT UP. Mm-hmm. You know, so this, and people came and asked him for money for,
I did.
Yeah, for all kinds of things. And this was, and you know, the foundation that he sets up in the end, at the end of his life, is all about giving back, AIDS research, children, all of these things. I'm just going to change a little bit so that, because I do want to talk.
And I know that Arnie was getting ill, and we didn't have a restroom off of our bedroom, and so I went in and told Keith, and he just, because he had so much cash around, just pulled out, how much do you need? I said, well, about $3,200. Gave me $3,200 to put in a bathroom, you know? So he was quite generous.
I think that comes across in his work, that there's a way that you're invited in, that he really did believe that art is for everybody. And so all these questions that we are struggling with today out of that context is because, you know, he's a kid when he dies, and then it's one chapter and that's the end.
Well, you know, a very famous, a well-known artist friend of ours, I would not say who they are, but this was years later when we were becoming friends with her. She said, well, you know, he was a really nice person, but not a very good artist. You know, you think it's funny, huh? It hurt.
I got that. I got that from people.
It hurt me to hear that, because he was wholesale. The circus moved on. This had been a carnival act complete with Andy Warhol and they were all dead. They were all dead. And let's face it, it was not about art. It was about something else. But he's still here in the art world. Still, people are out there seeing it. And that's a kind of a vindication to me of how he felt about art and freedom and populism.
I think it's what you mentioned at the beginning, this high-low, that he very much thought of himself as someone who was thinking about Matisse and, you know, wanting to make a work that was like Matisse's, the Matisse's of today. You know, this is the modern woman for me, and that was the modern woman from Matisse. So just, I know, like, it feels like we just started talking, but time has gone by, let me tell you. So I wanted just a little bit to touch on this idea of the history of the way in which dance and the visual arts have collaborated in a way that have allowed both art forms to break new ground, to kind of sort of be catalytic for one another.
And you know, anything that we say, we have to say it in light of world history, and the record is long. We used to have these conversations, maybe 20 years ago, I don't do it so much anymore. What came first if you look at the Lascaux, the paintings? And I say, they say, you know, they were making sacred marks, but I said, I'm convinced that before they went into those caves, they probably did a dance ritual, then went into the caves. So they've always been connected.
I think when it comes just to this sort of avant-garde art world, we're going to briefly be in the high art avant-garde world. Where I'm trying to go with this is the awareness that you have that you are the inheritor of this history. You are not neutral in entering, in the mid-1970s into the dance world, into New York of 1979. This is Virgil Thompson and Florine Stedheimer, because I have to name her because she's amazing, and Gertrude Stein, and she makes the whole sets out of cellophane. This is something that happens in New York, and that history is everywhere in New York. So you walk into New York, you're going to dance, you're going to do it, you are inheriting it, and you must innovate it. So I wonder if you feel this the way that it is this gift you get, but also the burden of it.
I don't think I could do justice to that. I would just say that there's something about all art being in the moment. And art takes courage to make a mark where there was nothing before. There's also courage in who you hold hands with, figuratively or actually. And that is what I think this collaborations were about. Now, the high art world wants to say a certain thing about it, but collage and those things have been parts of households and religious traditions a long time. Yeah. So how did I feel? I lived with a man who was a photographer, Arnie Zane, who was also an art history major. And he had a great love for traditional cultures, but he also had a notion of high art culture as well. But we were going to make something that was going to knock your socks off in the way that when you hear the jukebox, in the way that people dance on the dance floor, in the way that people hook up casually, have sex, then ask each other their names. Yeah, that was, I think that's what we were doing, How did the Jefferson Airplane, want the revolution, got the revolution. I keep using it. It's kind of, who uses the word revolution with good conscience now? It's obscene. How dare you? But we did. Yeah. We thought that we were changing the world simply with who you slept with, who somebody right on your body. You could do anything you want to. It's art because I say it's art. Right. And then you're going to do battle with the critics. Yeah.
I'm aware that it's 8 o'clock already, and I know that we want to take questions from the audience. So I'm just going to have one more question that follows up on your question, and it's about New York Live Arts, but also Bill T. Jones, Arnie Zane Company. The word dance.
Yes, it was Bill T. Jones, Arnie Zane Dance Company, and then as as I distilled for myself what the mission of it was, is to create a community of persons who should be able to handle text, movement, and music with facility. So let's get rid of the dance part. Plus, I had the feeling that dance had become something like, everyone, where was it? Someone the other day. The only thing we can agree on, left and right and center, is everybody hates mime. Have you heard that? And I felt that dance was becoming, in some ways, like mime. Oh God, there they go again. They're expressing themselves, So, yeah. But, so, New York Live Arts, Bill T. Jones, Arnie Zane Company means that we're ready for the brave new world, and we're going to make form as we feel the form is necessary. We call what we do embodied investigation.
So my last question is about this idea of art and activism. Some people at the time would say that there's no role for politics and activism in any kind of art. Yeah. Conceptual art and all that. But I wonder what you think about that, because I know you've talked about it differently over the years, and how that's changed for you and where that is right now, especially with the company. What does it mean to be an artist? What does it mean to be an activist? Are those two things
So my
possible?
sister, you're asking me to strip naked in public and say what I really think, right? Yeah, why not? I don't know if I believe that art can change shit. And I used to believe, particularly about dance, because here we are once again, I know I'm over the border here, but the Puritan notion, separating the body and the spirit, that's why we thought just to stand up there on stage and move your body is an act of resistance. And why are black people hung and strung up so much? Because they are a provocation to the propriety that the puritanical tradition has taught us. Therefore, anything that you do that has the body involved is already protest. Taylor Swift, Beyonce. Well, hey, they're political forces now, right? I don't know how I feel about that. I know that humility must be, Bill, can you find meaning? Can you personally find meaning? And do you believe beauty still exists? Now that's very personal. I cannot say to a room full of young high schoolers, if you make a kick-ass modern dance, that they're going to make people vote properly in the next election. Hey.
In the United States of America.
I'll tell you what?
In the United States of America.
In the United States, because you don't have these problems here, of course, right? What is it that... What is it? You make fun of us with our melting pot. We don't melt. We're a great mosaic here in Canada. Isn't that the line, right? We're a mosaic. Well, good luck with that. Yeah. Do you mind if we take a few questions?
No, 100%. The lights are coming up. Get ready. Get your questions. This is your chance.
I love that idea that you are executing, that you didn't want to create like a dance studio or like company, but you wanted to create a community. I love the idea of bringing community together for the sake of doing things you enjoy. So do you think that you are successful in doing that?
No, first of all, you said that I didn't want to make a dance company, I wanted to make a community. Correct? Is that what you were getting at?
Yes.
Yeah, right. And you have to be careful because people always say, we're a family. And I said, if we're a family, I am not a good dad. I believe that artists are self-involved sons of bitches. I say that, they are. And hopefully sometimes, like the goose that lays a golden egg, something drops that is of use to the world. The artist, first and foremost, I think is of use to themselves. Now, the community idea, that is one that is on the chopping block right now, as I say that my whole life of creation, I'm doubting what it did, right? Is that the best way now to make change in the world by getting people to self-define themselves as the ever smaller silos, if you will? I don't know. Once again, but go back to the question, the artist should be the freest person in the society, sometimes literally running naked and thumbing their nose at all received wisdom, but an artist is a person with a location, and what does that person that the artist is want to do? Now, that's all great, but let's hope they're a genius. Because I do believe that we're not all equally gifted. I don't think so. And it's almost the luck of the draw when you get a masterpiece. Now, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's the best I'm going to do, my brother.
You did. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
There was a question here in the front.
They told me you all were shy.
You
didn't have any questions.
You pointed at Haring's red and you said, that's an object. I don't make objects. And although you can videotape your early performances, we have videotapes, I was wondering about your relationship with the essential ephemerality of what you do. How have you reflected on that over the years?
Yeah, I tried to embrace it, and I tried to embrace it as something noble, actually. We were, Bjorn reminds me of the story, I was actually working at the Louvre, and I did a piece called Walking the Line at the invitation of Anselm Kiefer. And we had a talk, and I was saying, I just envy visual artists because, look, you have paintings, And he said, well, I envy you. How did it go beyond? Because, yeah, the Louvre is full of very bad paintings. And the dance exists in the memory. And somehow that is a sacrosanct place. I don't know, I feel that way sometimes when I'm reading a great novel and I see Hollywood take a chance and make a film out of it. How dare you? That belonged to me in here. So, the ephemerality, and you know, I would love to have George Balanchine's chops in terms of formalism. When you watch those dances, you actually are seeing something like sculpture in time, and it's beautiful. And it's you find yourself moved for reasons you can't explain. So that's the best I'm going to say. Let's long live that which never lived. You know. Now the poets in the room, you can have that. Yeah.
I think there's a question at the back. Oh,
I see you over there, but
Yeah.
there are other forces that force.
oh, over there.
It's over here.
Okay.
There's here and there's
She
over
got the
here.
mic, so it's
Yeah.
good.
Let's see if we'll get them.
Stealing the moment.
Hello.
Hi, Bill. I just want to also say that I saw your work in Fella in New York.
I'm sorry, what'd you say now?
Fella in New
Fella,
York.
yeah.
Yes. So
Yeah.
yes. And it invigorated me so deeply, and it actually was a big propeller in me creating the work that I am creating now as a choreographer. But the question that I had for you, as Keith transitioned early so he couldn't really officially be the teller of what he wanted his legacy to be. So for you, my question is, how do you want your legacy to be defined?
Damn, you all are asking all the questions, aren't you? This is very big around New York Live Arts right now, because I am going to be, a few years ago I said I'd be another 10 years, and then I'd like to retire with dignity. My husband says, he doesn't think I can retire. Legacy, that is the question of what is the legacy? Is it the building of the 219 West 19th Street, which has had amazing people there? Is it its archives? What is the legacy? Is the legacy the company that you talked about a moment ago? Is that, there probably right now, since the company's inception in 1982, I think several hundred people have come through this 9-10-member company. We're supposed to be finding a way now to wind things down, and yet leave something there for, this is a question. I got nailed the other night with a friend, and they were saying, well, don't you believe in the future? Because, you know, there comes a point you feel crusty, like, to hell with the future. I just want to, be able to have the life I want to be able to make until I say enough. And then let the world take it. Now, that is the question right now for me. Because, you know, to care about legacy means you have to care about the organization, means you have to care about many people whose lives are involved in it, and you have to articulate what you think of your work was important and worth keeping. That's supposed to be your job, right? Yeah, that's supposed to be art history. So for me, I'm trying to understand what that means. I thank you for the question, but I'm a little embarrassed and I don't have a stronger answer for you. Make the next work. That's what I have known. And make sure the people around you are respected and fed well, and they have health insurance. And then find the best board of directors that you can so that you can make sure that place stays open. And then let the next persons come in. There's a young genius somewhere in Toronto right now wanting to make that work and be seen on the world stage. Can New York Live Arts be ready for them? That's a legacy. Yeah.
Someone at the back really
They're over
wants to
here.
ask a question.
This gentleman here, and then there's over here.
Yeah.
They've been very patient.
Hi, Bill.
Hey.
I think we met in Northampton, Mass.
Ah.
With Greg Jones, and I saw you perform your a special performance for that space in the Academy.
And Northampton?
Northampton, Massachusetts.
At Mass MoCA or?
Academy. The Academy
oh my
Theater.
Gosh, you go way back. Yeah.
Yes.
You know,
I was on stage left when I saw you.
Was I behaving?
Never. You were coming in and out in a very similar fashion, so it was very powerful. So I always had this interview in my mind of you singing I'm a poor wayfaring stranger.
Yes. You know the story. Oh.
I do. And
Oh,
I always wanted...
No, wayfaring stranger is what you're referring to.
Yes. I always wanted to ask you, what made you sing that song in that interview?
Oh, God. What? Isn't it clear? You know,
I saw you, yeah.
I'm just a poor wayfaring stranger.
This is what I wanted.
Traveling through this world of woes, but there's no sickness, toil, or danger in that bright world to which I go. And then it does that African American thing. I'm going there to see my mother. I'm going there no more to roam. Today, that brilliant guy, I love the, what was his name? The guy interviewed me today, but he was asking me, you talk about transcendence. What do you want to transcend? So that song is about how my people have always, now maybe it's a bill of goods, had this notion that there's something past this. I'll quickly take the time, you know. We were doing Uncle Tom's, you know that story? We were doing Uncle Tom's Cabin?
Yes.
You know the one, right?
Mm-hmm.
At Spoleto.
Yes.
And the show was very well attended, and we were in a 16th century chapel. Pardon? Spoleto, Italy, right? All the people.
The restaurant, yeah.
They were there with their furs and so on and so forth. Estella, my mother, was there with me. She was touring around doing that. So when I sing that song, I'm channeling Estella. But I do remember that night, she was not in great voice. She always dressed like she was going to church. And she came out on stage and she, here I am again, ladies and gentlemen. Lord, bless my son with whatever it is he thinks he's doing, you know? And then she would go into it. Now, I remember that day I had been, Interpol had come to our hotel because in that wayfaring stranger, there was an improvisational speech. And it could be anything I wanted it to be. Where is the Pope tonight? Tonight I am the Pope. Whoa. In Italy. Right? And sure enough, the next day, the police come up there to fingerprint me because I had offended a head of state. It's wayfaring stranger. And where is the Pope tonight? So that is, and my mother was like this. When she finished her prayer, she began to like do this thing, you know, thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus! And they're Italians, what the hell? As we're moving her off, and it was real. Her child had been, the police had been there. It was inchoate, but she was calling on God in front of all these people because there had been an offense against her boy, right? Is that art? What is that? Is that art? That is something that is more expensive than art, you know? Anyways, I think, thank you for opening that door.
I was waiting for that for a long time. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jesus.
Hi, thank you for the introduction, because actually my question is about Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yes.
So when I was in art school,
that
that period was when I was exploring the world of stuff. And I remember that piece at Harborfront, actually.
You remember what now?
You performing at Harborfront, Uncle Tom's Cabin.
Yes.
And that's David Parsons, too. I loved his company then. So as I get older, you reflect on the times you've had in life and the things you've done and seen, experienced. And so when I heard you were coming, I thought, I've got to ask you. I remember it was impressive and moving, but I also remember, and I want you to kind of describe it a bit, the company was very, very mixed in body shape at that time. Is that?
The company was what now?
Like there was a lot of difference in body shapes.
Oh, really big. Larry Goldberg.
Okay, so I do remember that accurately.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's just more from thinking about my experiences, your reflection of that time. Very company, really powerful, piece. So there's value in that because I remember it decades later.
And the rumor was that we were a cult. It's true. It's true that you had to have your head shaven and you had to take some sort of special, you had to do something special in honor of Bill to be a member of this cult. Well, I guess you might have to sometime, but, but thank you for that. Well, no, we must be getting it. Was there anybody who's just dying to be heard by the gods? Yes.
Okay, wait.
Mr. Jones, what would you have words for dancers like myself in midlife who are entering the calling, the pull to create, if blessed, with the longevity that you've had? Because as a dancer, you know, balancing all of the limited beliefs on what an aging body should or shouldn't do.
You look like such a baby, honey. Okay, so you're asking about it.
Yeah, because they're
aging body.
Well, not even just like aging body, but it's like, for example, even as a female and a person of color, as a re-emerging artist, as a dancer and visual artist, there's still the voice in my mind saying, "You're nuts." But the calling is greater than the limiting beliefs. And so how have you been able to navigate, maybe you didn't plan to be around this long and to have such a legacy, which I know you so humbly can't even define, even though, you know, we're all here to like just even hear you speak.
Yes, right.
So how would you say to dancers who have the calling to create with longevity, to be brave in that pocket?
Well, you're sort of doing it, aren't you?
I'm doing it,
You're
but at
bringing
the same time, it's
already.
like, it's like creating, but there's a fog in front, but you know you just have to create, but you don't, like, you just hope that you just,
Yeah.
it will birth itself and birth itself.
Yeah, you know, how did Bette Davis used to say, old age is not for sissies? You know, that's one answer to it. This was a woman who had double mastectomy and had been, you know, still hanging in there, but she believed in something, you know. What would I say to them? I mean, I can forgive a lot if I know what you love. Now, I think when we get old like that, you got to, all vanity and all has got to fall away. This is because I love this. Now, that's what I'm saying, which is so difficult for me to be saying in this august body, is that I'm not sure anymore. Do I believe that dance is the answer to my own existential questions? The world would be a better place if everyone knew how to bust a move. I don't know. I don't know about that. But I think you shouldn't. One thing I used to say to very young dancers, they'd say to me, well, I don't know if I'm good enough for choreographers, you know. You've got to, the world does not need another hungry artist. But you, as an artist, should say, excuse me, fuck the world. I need to do this. Now, where is it going to be done? What community center? What stage? And who is going to pay for it to be done? Those are different questions. So you're asking me about the feel-good, the Isadora Duncan of it. But with it, my understanding of, I can't talk about dance now without talking about the business of dance. And I don't think that's what you're talking about.
Well, that is part of the work too that I'm navigating is, so there's the business of the dance.
So
and
there
the
is
choreography.
business of it.
There is the business.
You want to go somewhere and be paid to do what you do.
Yes.
And you want to do it in an aging body.
Yes.
In a world where they can choose to see people, remember what used to be 32 forte turns? And now
Yeah.
they give you
Yeah, that's not happening now.
132. And then they can stand on their head at the end of it. I mean, if you watch Instagram. Yeah, so there's a lot that all bets are off right now. But the thing that's got to be true is that the person up there, even if it's outside in the street corner, is convinced. Is convinced. Now, you seem to have a light around you. Good, if you can keep that. But what about the days when you don't have it? Whoa, and they come, don't they? What about the days when you feel foolish? They come. What is your secret weapon? How do you bounce back up? Another anecdote? the week before Allen Ginsberg died, or 2 weeks before, I'd been invited to be on a shared program. It was called Robert Sherman of the Buddhist, that house. It's called the Art of Dying Conference, the Art of Dying. And as you know, the Buddhists in the room know what that is. That every day should, in some ways, be practicing the last moment, the art of dying. But sure enough, it was the week before he went into decline, and he was in the hospital. So I was there with Young Chen Lamo, and we worked, but Allen Ginsberg was not there. What did happen was, here I am talking like you and I are talking, and a woman stands up, and she is saying that what about those of us who cannot dance? I think she must have had a life-threatening illness. And I was like, I don't think it was snake oil, but I said, honey, come here, And I said, you can do this. Even in this room, she said, I don't have the strength, So you can raise your arms. And just a little encouragement, and suddenly she got light, Now, that was a very indulged moment. But was that dancing? Is that what you're talking about? Because I think you're talking about professional performance. But she, in front of all those people, probably just out of chemotherapy, was able to raise her arms, and she claimed her dance. Now, that's not what you're asking me, but I think that is ground zero for what we're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Is that good enough?
Yes, exceptional. Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
I don't know.
One more.
There's a lady here.
Yeah,
A
right
person
here.
here. Sorry, I get into trouble doing that.
Hi. One thing that has always struck me about both your work and Haring's work is how it really speaks to a profound joy in the face of profound sadness. And my question, I guess, is whether or not that was a motivator for you, and how do you find that?
The joy, you mean?
Yeah, the joy as a motivator, as a driver of work, as a method of creation and process.
You got to realize I grew up with people. We were potato pickers living in a German-Italian community, and we were there as a labor force. We could not live in the town, so we were out in the countryside. We had a jukebox in the living room. The people worked all week. About 100 pounds bag of potatoes, 12 cents. That's what they pay you, 12 cents. That was good money. That's what these people were doing. But on the weekend, man, that jukebox, people would throw down. That's the first dancing I ever saw. People who were the lowest of the low, claiming something that belonged to them, and it was called dance, right? Now, that I saw, but now what does it mean when you understand Martha Graham, Merce Cunningham, Alvin Ailey, professional dance? Somehow or other, I think that's where this, and yes, I am making a rude gesture. I think there's something in that where the belligerence came. And the belligerence is part of this joy you're talking about. I think Keith had belligerence. I think we both did. You're watching me get my ass painted tonight, right? Shameless, right? But I'm saying you have to be a bit shameless, if that's what you're asking, to find your joy. Now, this is a person, my husband knows, I have been through hell and back the last few weeks. Literally, major emotional turmoil, major freaking people are out around me because of erratic anger. So thank you for calling me full of love and joy, but I'm giving you something. Is your pronouns she?
He, they.
Yeah.
He, they.
Pardon?
They, them.
They, them. Well, okay, then I don't know how to say my sister then. This is a problem.
Sister works. I've never been, but I'm happy to be your sister.
There's a whole thing with the African American vernacular that I love, my brothers and my sisters. But now people are saying, no, I'm not your brother, I'm not your sister. Well, my person then. I'm trying to talk to you honestly about that. Where is that joy? And how do you find that joy? And do you have a practice that allows you to taste it at least once a day? And if you don't have it, get it. You're a performer?
Yes.
Yes, they say with some with some hesitation.
High school student.
High school student?
Yes.
Yeah, I wouldn't come here.
Oh. Please take notes.
It ain't much. These knees don't work anymore. This is the end of the world. This is the beginning. It's never been anything. Never will be nothing. Yeah.